Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Satyabrata, MDDM clinical pharmacologist, and today I am going to discuss on new drugs clinical trial rules 2019 and ICMR guideline for biomedical research with particular relevance in academic trials. Coming to introduction, the Government of India notified the new drugs and clinical trial rules NDCTR on 19th March 2019 to replace Part XA and Schedule Y of the Drugs and Cosmetics Rules 1945 that bring a paradigm shift in the overall regulatory scenario. There are discrepancies which offset some of the advantages offered by the new rules, and the new drug and clinical trial rules 2019 came into force from the date of release in 25th March 2019. For Chapter 4, Ethics Committee for Biomedical and Health Research started from 21st September 2019, 180 days after. Recently, third amendment introduced in 2022. So coming to definition of new drug. So a new drug is a drug including active pharmaceutical ingredient or phytopharmaceutical drug which has not been used in the country to any significant extent except in accordance with the provisions of the act and the rules made on their under as per conditions specified in the labeling thereof and has not been approved as safe and efficacious by the Drug Regulatory Authority DRA with respect to its claims, or a drug that is approved by the Drug Regulatory Authority DRA for certain claims and proposed to be marketed with modified or new claims including indication, route of administration, dosage and dosage form, or a fixed dose combination of two or more drugs approved separately for certain claims and proposed to be combined for the first time in a fixed ratio, or where the ratio of ingredients in an approved combination is proposed to be changed with certain claims including indication, route of administration, dosage and dosage form, or a modified or sustained release form of a drug or novel drug delivery system of any drug approved by the DRA, that is Drug Regulatory Authority, or a vaccine, recombinant deoxyribonucleic acid, rDNA derived product, living modified organism, monoclonal antibody, stem cell derived product, gene therapeutic product, or xenografts intended to be used as drug. So coming to key highlights of the new rule 2019. So the new rules have replaced the Part X and Schedule Y and D and C drug and cosmetic rules 1945, changed the definition of clinical trial. So timelines for review and approval of clinical trial applications by Drug Controller General of India DCGI now has been modified as 90 days for drugs developed outside of India and 30 days for new drugs being developed in India. Then application fees for phase 1 to 4 clinical trials now increase up to 6 to 8 folds. After approvals of a clinical trial, it is now valid for 2 years from approval date. There are two types of ethics committee, one for clinical trials and BAB studies and other for biomedical and health research. The validity of EC ethics committee registration is now 5 years. DCGI, Drug Controller General of India, should be informed about the protocol approval granted by EC Ethics Committee within 15 working days of such approval. In case of rejection of trial application, the applicant may request to reconsider the application within a period of 60 days from the date of rejection. A 6-monthly report of clinical trials should be submitted to DCGI, Drug Controller General of India, through Sugam portal, but enrollment status to be submitted every 3 months. The termination of the clinical trial and BAB viability bioequivalence study should be notified to Drug Regulatory Authority DRA within 30 days with detail of its cause of termination. Post-trial access of drug to patients should be provided by the sponsor at free of cost to the trial subject after the trial is over. It completely depends on recommendation of the investigator and its approval by EC Ethics Committee. For conducting an academic clinical trial intended solely for academic research purposes, only EC Ethics Committee approval is mandatory. No permission is required from the DCJ. And such trial should not used for promotional or approval purposes. The sponsor should provide free medical management to the subject as long as required as per the opinion of investigator or till such time it is established that the injury is not related to the clinical trial or BAB study by ability by equivalence study. The sponsor or its representative and the investigator shall forward their reports on serious adverse events SAE of death after due analysis to DCGI, Drug Control General of India, HOI, chairperson of his ethics committee within 14 days of the knowledge of such occurrence. PSUR, periodic safety update report, timeline is reserved as per old regulation, but content and structure is now should be arranged with very detailed and exhaustive format. Coming to clinical trial, viability and bioequivalence study of new drugs and investigational new drugs. So, clinical trial of new drugs and IND, investigational new drug. In case of an application of a new drug discovered in India or research and discovery R&D of the drug are being done in India and also the drug is proposed to be manufactured in India, such application shall be disposed of within a period of 30 working days from the date of the receipt of the application by the said authority. Where no communication has been received, the permission to conduct clinical trials shall be deemed to have been granted. In case of clinical trial city of a new drug which is already approved and marketed in a country, the application shall be disposed of within 90 working days. So, post-trial access of new drug or investigational new drug. If investigator of a clinical trial has recommended and the same has been approved by the ethics committee, the post-trial access shall be provided by the sponsor of such clinical trial to the trial subject free of cost. If the clinical trial is being conducted for an indication for which no alternative therapy is available and new drug has been found to be beneficial to the trial subject by the investigator and the trial subject or legal heir of such subject has the case maybe has consented in writing to use and declared in writing that the sponsor shall have no liability for post-trial use of investigational new drug or new drug and the investigator has certified of such use. So, academic clinical trial. No permission for conducting an academic clinical trial is required from CLA, Central Licensing Authority, where the clinical trial in respect of the permitted drug formulation is intended solely for academic research purposes of new indication or new route of administration or new dose or new dosage form of approved drug. And the clinical trial has been initiated after prior approval by the EC Ethics Committee. The observations generated from such clinical trial are not required to be submitted to the Central Licensing Authority. The observations of such clinical trial are not used for promotional purposes. The approved academic clinical trial shall be conducted in accordance with the approved clinical trial protocol ethical principles specified in National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Research on Human Participants notified by the Indian Council of Medical Research. In the event of a possible overlap between the academic clinical trial and clinical trial or a doubt on the nature of the study, the ethics committee concerned shall inform the Central Licensing Authority in writing indicating its views within 30 working days from the receipt of application to that effect. The Central Licensing Authority shall, after receiving the communication from the ethics committee referred to in sub-rule 2, examine it and issue necessary clarification in writing within 30 working days from the date of receipt of such communication, provided that where the Central Licensing Authority does not send the required communication to such ethics committee within 30 working days from the date of receipt of communication from the said ethics committee, it shall be presumed that no permission from the Central Licensing Authority is required. The approved academic clinical trial shall be conducted in accordance with the approved clinical trial protocol, ethical principles specified in National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical and Health Research involving human participants, notified by the Indian Council of Medical Research with a view to ensuring protection of rights, safety and well-being of trial subject during conduct of clinical trial of licensed and approved drug or drug formulation for any new indication or new route of administration or new dose or new dosage form for academic research purposes. Inspection of premises relating to clinical trial. The person or the institution or the organization permitted to conduct clinical trial under Rule 22 in Form CT 06 or Rule 23 in Form CT 4A, including his representatives and investigators, shall allow any officer authorized by the Central Licensing Authority who may, if considered necessary, be accompanied by an officer authorized by the State Licensing Authority to enter the premises and clinical trial site with or without prior notice to inspect, search or seize any record, statistical results, document, investigational drug and other related material and reply to queries raised by the inspecting authority in relation to conduct of such clinical trial. Then suspension or cancellation permission to conduct clinical trial. Where any person or institution or organization to whom permission has been granted under Rule 22 in Form CT 06 or Rule 23 in Form CT 4A fails to comply with any provision of the Act and these rules, the Central Licensing Authority may, after giving an opportunity to show cause and after affording an opportunity of being heard by an order in writing, take one or more of the following actions, namely, issue warning in writing describing the deficiency or defect observed during inspection or otherwise which may affect adversely the right or well-being of a trial subject or the validity of clinical trial conducted, reject the results of clinical trial, suspend for such period as considered appropriate or cancel the permission granted under Rule 22 in Form CT 06 or Rule 23 in Form CT 4A. Debar the investigator or sponsor, including his representatives, to conduct any clinical trial in future for such period as considered appropriate by the Central Licensing Authority. Where a person or an institution or an organization to whom permission has been granted under Rule 22 in Form CT 06 or Rule 23 in Form CT 4A or the sponsor is aggrieved by the order of Central Licensing Authority, the person or the institution or the organization may, within a period of 60 working days of the receipt of the order, make an appeal to the central government, and that government may, after such inquiry as deemed necessary and after affording an opportunity of being heard, pass such order in relation thereto as may be considered appropriate in the facts and circumstances of the case. Then coming to biomedical and health research, new drug clinical trial rules 2019 describes Rule 2H. Biomedical and health research means research including studies on basic, applied and operational research or clinical research designed primarily to increase scientific knowledge about diseases and conditions, physical or socio-behavioral, their detection and cause, and evolving strategies for health promotion, prevention or amelioration of disease and rehabilitation, but does not include clinical trial. BAB study of new drug or investigation new drug. The every BAB study center shall be overseen by an EC ethics committee registered under Rule 8 before initiation and throughout the duration of the conduct of such study. Any person or institution or organization which intends to conduct BAB viability bioequivalence study shall obtain permission from the DRA Drug Regulatory Authority by making an application in Form CT 05 accompanied by a fee as specified in 6th schedule and such other information and documents as specified in the table 2 of the 4th schedule. DRA Drug Regulatory Authority, if satisfied, grant permission to conduct BAB viability bioequivalence study, or if not satisfied, reject the application for reasons to be recorded in writing within a period of 90 working days from the date of receipt of the application in Form CT05. Then coming to compensation and medical management. Medical management in clinical trial or BAV viability bioequivalence study of new drug or IND investigational new drug sponsored to provide free medical management to the subject as long as required as per the opinion of investigator or till such time it is established that the injury is not related to the clinical trial whichever is earlier. Procedure for compensation in case of injury or death during clinical trial BAV bioequivalence study. In cases of SAE, serious adverse events of death, permanent disability, or any other injury other than death shall be examined, and the compensation is payable as per the formula specified in the B2I schedule, that is 7 schedule to the Rule 41 by sponsor or its representative. Then coming to waiver of local city clinical trial. The local clinical trial may not be required to be submitted along with the application if the new drug is approved and marketed in a country specified by the Drug Regulatory Authority DRA, and if no major unexpected serious adverse events have been reported, or the application is for import of a new drug for which the DRA Drug Regulatory Authority had already granted permission to conduct a global clinical trial which is ongoing in India, and in the meantime such new drug has been approved for marketing in a country, and there is no probability or evidence on the basis of existing knowledge of difference in Indian population of the enzymes of the gene involved in the metabolism of the new drug or any factor affecting pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, safety and efficacy of the new drug, and the applicant that has given an undertaking in writing to conduct phase 4 clinical trial to establish safety and effectiveness of such new drug as per design approved by the DRA Drug Regulatory Authority. If drug is indicated in life-threateningly serious diseases or diseases of special relevance to Indian health scenario, or for a condition which is unmet need in India, such as extract tuberculosis, extended drug-resistant tuberculosis, hepatitis C, H1N1, dengue, malaria, HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, or for the rare diseases for which drugs are not available or available at a high cost, or if it is an orphan drug. Then coming to approval of new drug. Disposal of new drug applications by within a period of 90 working days. Provision for accelerated approval with condition of requirement of post-marketing trial. Provision for application by sponsor for expedited review in case of modified or new claims and NDDS, new drug delivery system. The non-clinical and clinical data requirement may be relaxed, omitted under certain conditions. Then coming to ethics committee C. So ethics committee for CT clinical trial or BAV viability bioequivalence study, registered under Rule 8 Constitution, minimum of 7 members from medical, non-medical, scientific and non-scientific areas with at least one layperson, one woman member, one legal expert, one independent member from any other related field such as social scientist or representative of NGO, non-government organization or philosopher or ethicist or theologian. Quorum includes 5 members. At least 50% of members not affiliated with the institute or organization. Every member of the EC Ethics Committee shall be required to undergo training and development programs. Then validity of registration increased to 5 years. Any change in membership or constitution to be reported to DRA Drug Regulatory Authority in writing within 30 working days. And Ethics Committee for Biomedical and Health Research shall be constituted and function in accordance with the National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical and Health Research involving human participants as specified by the ICMR guideline, Indian Council of Medical Registration guidelines. EC Ethics Committees should register under Rule 17 with the authority designated by the Department of Health Research and not with the DRA Drug Regulatory Authority and within the Ministry of Health MOH. Initially, provisional registration would be granted with a validity of 2 years. Subsequently, based on scrutiny of the document furnished, the designated authority may grant final registration for 5 years. Then pre and post submission meeting to improve transparency, accountability, and predictability in the regulatory process of approval of new drug and clinical trials. The applicant can ask for pre and post submission meeting with payment of fees. Then coming to schedules, there are 8 schedules. First schedule contains includes rules 19 and 31 that include the general principles and practices for clinical trial. Then second schedule includes the rules 21, 75, 80 and 97 that includes the requirements and guidelines for permission to import or manufacture of new drug for sale or to undertake clinical trial. Third schedule includes the rules 8, 10, 11, 25, 35, 42 and 49 that includes conduct of clinical trial. Then fifth schedule includes rules 77 and 82 which contains post-market assessment. Sixth schedule includes rules 21, 22, 33, 34, 45, 47, 52, 53, 60, 67, 68, 75, 76, 80, 81, 86, 91, 97 and 98 that contains fee payable for license, permission and registration certificate. Then 7th schedule includes rules 39, 40 and 42 that contains formula to determine the quantum of compensation in the cases of clinical trial related injury or death. Then 8th schedule includes the forms. Then there are some chapters. There are 13 chapters. Chapter 1 preliminary, chapter 2 authorities and officers, chapter 3 ethics committee for clinical trial viability and bioequivalence study, chapter 4 ethics committee for biomedical and health research, chapter 5 clinical trial BAB viability bioequivalence study of new drugs and investigational new drugs, chapter 6 VI that is compensation, chapter V2I that is 7 is viability and bioequivalence study center, chapter V3I contains that is 8 contains manufacture of new drugs or investigational new drugs for clinical trial viability or bioequivalence study or for examination test and analysis. Then chapter 9 that is chapter IX import of new drugs and investigation new drugs for clinical trial or viability or bioequivalence study or for examination test and analysis. Chapter 10 that is chapter X include import or manufacture of new drug for sale or for distribution. Chapter 11 that is chapter XI include import or manufacture of unapproved new drug for treatment of patients in government hospital and government medical institution. Then chapter 12 that is chapter XII amendments of drugs and cosmetic rules 1945. Chapter 12 that is X2I contains amendments of drugs and cosmetic rules 1945. Chapter 13 that is chapter XIII contains miscellaneous findings. So there are lots of chapters in new drug clinical trial rule. You should go through the new drug clinical trial rules 2019 which is amended in 2022 and you should learn a lot from that and you should also apply the knowledge for future use for the society. So that's all. Thank you very much. Jai Jagannath.